All right, today we have a very special guest here. Say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, this is Monica. So today we are going to be talking a little bit about my sweet Mana, and she's going to be a good girl and she's going to be quiet for us while we do a little bit of teaching today. So I have pulled up the comments on my video so that I can see you guys in real time and we can have a conversation. But today what I wanted to share with you about is a little bit more about how we parent by design in this house and how I use her human design to understand her a little bit better so that I can teach her how to be the best version of her and not a photocopy of me in some way. So say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
All right, and we're going to dive in. So I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see a little bit about what it is that we're talking about now. So this here is my Mana. This is her human design, her body graph. And she is a 4/6 generator. Now she has a sacral authority, so that makes her an open emotional center. She's got that open emotional center. So when I'm asking her questions, I'm going to be asking her yes or no questions. I'm going to be engaging that gut reflex, and I'll be asking her, I don't ask her, what do you want for lunch? I ask her, do you want macaroni and cheese or do you want pizza, right? We have to give them specific questions that they can engage with. So something that really helps us in being her best self as a generator in a house with two manifesting generators, my boyfriend and I are both manifesting generators, is that we help her to, really encourage practice and mastery and the slow and steady approach, because it's very much how generators operate. So just a few moments ago, actually, she was getting pretty upset because she wanted to draw something, a character from one of her TV shows that she likes. And she was getting really frustrated. Check that not self theme of frustration. She was getting really frustrated because the drawing wasn't perfect the first time. And so something that encourage with her as a generator is to practice mastery, and that she's not going to ever be great at anything the first time. And it's really all about engaging with something. I guess we're unstable. Come on, Mercury, work with us. But it's all really about engaging her with something that she's passionate about, that she loves, and she's going to love to practice, right? That old saying about if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life was built for generators, right? And so, encouraging her, especially with that defined will and the particular channel that she has out of the will center. We talk a lot about the will center here. This little triangle here, if it's red in your chart, that means you have defined will. If it's white, that means it's open and you are undefined in the will center. So the willpower or the will center deals more with ego and ambition and achievement, and it really wants to be the best. Now, this particular channel that we see coming out of her will center here, that 2551, it's very, very fixated on being first, right? That they want to be the first at something. They want to be, the best first, right? And so that's something that I have to acknowledge in her as well. So something that I was just talking about was that she's about to be 5. So she is about to go into school next year. She'll be in kindergarten this fall, which is so exciting. But something that we really need to be aware of is teaching her about who she is as an individual before she goes into school and starts feeling all of this external pressure, to be like the other kids, right? And that's this insane pressure that we feel when we enter into, large group environments, especially because we're starting to get all of these other little channels connected and we're starting to feel external pressures from other people. So it's very important that we hone in and start teaching our children about their designs as soon as possible, as soon as we're teaching them about please them thank you as soon as we're teaching them about, all of these like important details about how to interact with the world. We should really be teaching them about their authority, about their strategy, about their type, even if we're not getting into the nitty gritty of these things, right? Because you, as the lay person who's not a human design expert, you probably don't know all of the nitty gritty of these things. You don't know that this particular line coming out of the will center makes her feel that pressure to be first, that she wants to be the first at something, that she wants to be great and be recognized for her greatness. But not only is that important to her, but that she needs to be first, right? So she, oh my gosh, it's so her. She's constantly in a race with people, right? Like we get off of the elevator coming to our apartment and she just takes off, right? Like she gets to the door and I win. It's like, were we in a race? Like who said, right? So it makes a lot of sense, when we look at it that way. But for you, not necessarily knowing these minute details, unless you sit down with an expert like myself, it's really important that you at least understand your child's type, authority, and strategies so that you can begin to teach them how they operate, who they are. My daughter, being a generator, she's designed for mastery. She's designed for practice. So even though she has this innate, urge to be the best, and to not only be the best, but to be the best quickly, we need to teach her that she is allowed to be the best. And being the first at something can be cool, sure, but you can be recognized as being the first for things, even if you're not the very first person, who's ever done it, or, whether or not you're really, really great at it the first time you do it, right? You can be the first, whatever, woman president, without ever having been the first president, or without your first election being the presidential election. Does that make sense, right? So with that said, it's all about nurturing that desire for her to achieve and be great and be the first at whatever it is that she's doing, without her having this pressure to be great at it right from the get-go. Now, another thing that I wanted to mention is how to help her communicate in a healthy way, because you see here, she's got this open throat center, right? And something that I really want to stress with you guys is that wherever it is that you're defined, right, that's for you to do. That's your work. But anywhere that you're open, anywhere you see these white open centers, that is meant to be easy. So it's an illusion. I know for you guys having open centers, it can feel like a lot of pressure. When we see these open throat children, my daughter, she's like, it's a miracle right now. She's being quiet. I had to, be very, we're going to be quiet, right? We're going to, be good for the video, right? But she's constantly like singing or talking or rambling or jabbering or whatever. And open throat children do tend to have that, experience, and so conversely, me having the defined throat, her having that open throat, if I wasn't super aware, and sometimes I still do catch myself doing this, is you shush them, you shush these open throat kids, and it makes them start to have this perception that they need to communicate in a specific way or in a certain way, and if they don't, then it's wrong or bad, or they should be quiet, right? And so it's very important that you understand where your children are open so that you can nurture that in them to, remind them that gets to be easy, okay? She has things to say. She doesn't need to say it in a certain specific way. So with my daughter, helping her to communicate in a healthy way is really important. I have to encourage her to be honest and to be open, and that it's okay for her to say whatever on her mind or whatever she's feeling. But there's an appropriate way to do it, an appropriate setting, as far as, you don't interrupt people, and we say please and thank you, so it's all about showing her how to have those healthy communication standards that people want, another person to have, that says, oh yes, you're a great communicator, while at the same time allowing her the freedom to communicate whatever it is that's in her heart, not her mind. What's up, sweetie? Tell them about your birthday. When's your birthday? You want to say it a little louder? June 29th. That's right. June 29th, she'll be 5. Yeah. Okay. So one last thing that I wanted to share with you all is something that, took a while for me to be humble about. And I think for a lot of moms out there who might be in a similar situation, you can understand where I'm coming from. So, one of the things that, we're expected to do as parents is to be able to like emotionally nurture our children, right? And to calm them down and to be an emotional place of reprieve for them. So here's the thing for me, as an emotional authority, having my distinct highs and lows, my daughter, as the open emotional center, sometimes gets that energetic push to take care of me, or something's wrong with mommy, and so it's partly about teaching her how to not be a people pleaser, right? But also about recognizing in moments where she is having an emotional reaction, where she is in a frantic high or in a low, right? That because of the energetic exchange between us, and because I am the emotional authority, oftentimes when she is frustrated, I'm going to get it's going to trigger my emotional state. Unless I take some very conscious time to breathe and practice, and I've grounded myself, and I've really had my, hour or two morning routine where I've gotten to set my emotional thermostat on high, I am susceptible to emotionally reacting to wherever it is that she is. And because of that, it's taken some humility, right? But my boyfriend, who also has the emotional center open, as well as my daughter's father, who has the emotional center open, and his girlfriend, who has the emotional center open. Yeah, and the emotional thermostat of the whole family. They are a little bit better at helping her to diffuse a situation, to diffuse a tense moment quickly, much better than I am, where she might be in a frustrated temper tantrum with me. They can just snap her out of it much faster than I can. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes, like I said, if I've taken the time to set my emotional thermostat on high and I'm in a really good place and I've really grounded myself, sometimes I'm like the Zen person in the room and I can chill everyone out, which is fantastic. That's the goal, everyone. However, it's not always like that. It's not always a perfect world. And I can't necessarily control when my waves come. So if I'm in a low or, even a medium low, and she is in that space and I haven't taken the time to really carve out my energy for the day, it's going to be easier for one of the fellow empaths that are in our lives, whether that's her father, his girlfriend, or my partner. I allow them to take that initial moment to diffuse, and then I can come in and build her back up and give her, a new foundation point to jump off from. I can come in at that point and reason with her and encourage her and things like that, right? But that initial emotional moment, that point where she needs to be diffused, I'm the least likely candidate for that particular job, right? We would ideally have someone else do that first. So Megan says, what would you say about emotional authorities tend to have a shorter temper than someone with an open emotional center? So, I'm not going to really give a blanket yes or no on that, because it really depends on how in power each of those people are, right? So, an out of power emotional authority, when I was out of power as an emotional authority, I snapped quickly. Also, if you're talking about a manifester in particular, manifestors have the shortest temper. So if it's an emotional manifester, they just typically they do tend to have the shortest fuse. However, right, like I said, if I've taken the time to, as an emotional authority, carve out my morning and give myself time to set my emotional thermostat on high, right, that's where I'm making my energy my priority, and it becomes a lot more challenging for you to mess with my emotional state. Now, on the other hand, right, someone who's open, like my boyfriend, who's done a lot of work on, he's an open emotional center, and he's done a lot of work on himself. you know, he has practiced being a screen, not a sponge. So he knows like, oh, that anger has nothing to do with me. I'm going to let that pass right through. Right. Whereas someone who's open, who hasn't had a lot of work on it, or children, right, who are just not practiced and are susceptible to going one way or the other, right? If me as an emotional authority, if I am having like an explosive moment and they're not practiced, they're gonna, which is what used to happen with me and my ex, actually, just like fun fact, right? A little bit of a story for you guys. You know, that was our biggest issue. We fought like cats and dogs. We were just always arguing. Now we're a lot better now. We've learned how to communicate with each other now. And of course, we don't live together. We're not in a romantic partnership or anything like that. So it's a lot easier for us to communicate in certain ways. But man, I would get angry and then he would immediately, right? It would just like the switch would flip, you know, and we would feed off of each other. And that's what happens, right? So that's the same reason why when she is having an emotional, you know, reactive moment, I almost need to like vacate the room. And that's happened a few times actually, where like she's having a little bit of a meltdown and it's me and, you know, my boyfriend are in the room. And I just like take a step back and I would go into our room. Like I walked into our bathroom one time and it was 30 seconds tops that she went from meltdown to neutral. And just as soon as my energy was out of the field, right, she could just like, but because she had gotten me into such a state where I was worked up, that she was worked up, right? We were just feeding off of each other's energy. So that does happen a lot. It's a big part of the conversation that I have with people when it comes to managing the emotional and the open emotional people in the house. So thank you. That was a really great question. What's up, baby? Oh, she's watching a show called Bluey right now. And that was what that's actually what inspired this whole video, was that she wanted to draw one of the characters from her show and she was getting frustrated that she couldn't draw him right the very first time. And so, you know, she wanted validation, she wanted help, she wanted support. And we're trying to encourage her as a generator that she needs to practice, right? That she's not going to be good at something the very first time that she does it. That doesn't mean that she can't be, you know, the first to do something as an artist. Does that make sense? Like she could create an entirely new medium, an entirely new field. She could be the first woman to work in a certain business or industry or whatever. There's a lot of opportunity to still be first and be the best and to express her greatness, even if she doesn't draw the picture right the very first time. So I like to bring you guys human design with stories and with context so that you can really understand why we use this information and how it's actually impactful and useful in your life. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I do have the first class going on in the Penta. That is my monthly human design membership group. That our first class is all about human design 101 and really just taking you through how to, you know, digest the body graph and what it is that we're looking at. So that class is going down on Friday. If you want to join us, make sure that you, I guess in this particular live, since it got broken up, you'll have to check the description in the other video, or I can just drop the link into the comments here as well. But yes, you're going to want to join the Penta before Friday if you want to join that class live. And if you would like some support in getting your human design read or the designs of your family members read, think about grabbing a reading or booking a session with me. Sessions are booked out until the middle of March right now. So if you want to get on the books, make sure that you book your session now. All right, and I'll be back tomorrow with another human design lesson. But until then, we love you guys. Say bye.
Bye.
Bye.